I felt angry because, like I said, you knew what you did, and for you to reach out, it's like, what are you trying to cover? You thought that you were going to get away with killing my sister?
Ramiah Griffin
How does
says
a man,
her sister
accused of his partner's murder, find the audacity to stand among mourners at her funeral, his face a mask of solemnity, as if sharing in their grief? What darkness lingers in the heart of someone who embraces the family of the woman he allegedly took from this world, offering condolences as if he were an innocent bystander? Today, we unravel the chilling enigma of Adelin Itangwa, a man whose presence at Ramiah Griffin's burial raises haunting questions and shatters the boundaries of human empathy. As we journey through this harrowing tale, we seek to comprehend the unsettling contradiction of a life partner turned suspect, a man once embraced as family who is now at the center of a shocking investigation. Ramiah Griffin, a young mother whose brilliance was dimmed far too soon, stands at the heart of this narrative, a beacon of joy and creativity, whose life was tragically cut short. Remi was more than a name, she was a force of nature, a loving mother, a dedicated friend, and a talented creator whose passion for life was evident in every smile. Her story, however, takes a dark turn, one that leaves us grappling with the complex layers of love, betrayal, and loss. In this video, we will explore the events leading up to that fateful day, the unraveling of a relationship once filled with promise, and the chilling moments that followed her untimely death. Through interviews, evidence, and personal accounts, we aim to piece together the puzzle of Remi's final days. Before we delve deeper into Remi's story, please take a moment to hit that like button. Your support helps to spread her story to others who may need to hear it. If you're new here, consider subscribing to this community, where we highlight cases deserving of attention. I invite you to share your thoughts on this case. Have you ever encountered someone who seemed to grieve publicly while concealing a dark secret? Your experiences shared in the comments below could help others recognize similar patterns in their lives. Don't forget to enable notifications by clicking the bell icon. Ramiah Griffin possessed an extraordinary ability to illuminate every space she entered, effortlessly drawing others into her radiant orbit. Her vibrant personality was vividly reflected in her social media presence, where she showcased a young woman overflowing with joy and enthusiasm for life. Whether she was captured dancing exuberantly with friends, sharing infectious laughter, or providing glimpses into her daily routine, Remi exuded an energy that was both uplifting and inviting. Her followers deeply valued her authenticity, as she courageously shared not only the high points of her life but also the challenges she faced along her journey. Those close to Remi described her as a person who was unafraid to express her thoughts and opinions, yet she always approached discussions with an underlying warmth and kindness that endeared her to many. Her Instagram stories were a delightful mix of motivational quotes and empowering messages, encouraging her audience to chase their dreams and aspirations, no matter the obstacles. In addition to her inspirational content, Remi often posted playful videos of herself experimenting with the latest makeup trends or sharing her insights on fashion, displaying her keen sense of style and creativity. What truly set Remi apart was her remarkable ability to forge genuine connections with her audience. She engaged in candid conversations about the complexities and nuances of young adulthood, addressing both the exhilarating highs and the daunting lows. This openness not only fostered a sense of community among her followers but also encouraged others to share their own experiences, creating a supportive environment where vulnerability was embraced. Remi's relatable nature and heartfelt communication resonated deeply with those who followed her, making her a beloved figure within her online community. Through her vibrant spirit and authentic storytelling, Remi became a source of inspiration and hope for many, leaving a lasting impact on the lives she touched. At just 20, Remi embraced motherhood with remarkable commitment. Her 1-year-old daughter became her world, and her social media captured precious moments they shared, from matching outfits to bedtime stories, revealing a mother's profound love for her child. Despite her young age, Remi approached parenthood with a maturity that surpassed her years. She adeptly balanced work and childcare, often sharing candid discussions about the trials of being a young mother. The milestones of her daughter's life, first steps, first words, and her first birthday, were celebrated with the exuberance that only a devoted parent could convey. Friends observed how motherhood shifted Remy's priorities. She worked tirelessly to provide a stable home in her Baldwin Borough apartment, decorating her daughter's room and establishing routines aimed at giving her child the best start possible. Remy was known for her generous spirit, with former classmates from Stowe Roos High School remembering her as someone who went above and beyond to help others. She maintained these connections well beyond graduation, organizing casual get-togethers and celebrating her friends' accomplishments. Her impact on the community was evident in small yet significant ways, from organizing local baby clothing swaps for young mothers to actively participating in neighborhood events. Remy and Adeline Iona's relationship blossomed when they were both still in their teens. At just 18 years old, Remy met the then 20-year-old Adeline through a circle of mutual friends in the vibrant city of Pittsburgh. Their early days together were filled with promise and shared interests, as they bonded over their love for music, outdoor adventures, and aspirations for the future. This budding romance appeared to be a joyful union, with both individuals captivated by each other's charisma and enthusiasm for life. However, their lives took a significant turn when Remy discovered she was pregnant at the age of 19. This pivotal moment transformed their relationship and led Remy to openly share her journey into motherhood on her social media platforms, a process she documented with palpable excitement and joy. Friends and followers watched as she navigated the challenges and triumphs of pregnancy, celebrating milestones like gender reveal parties and nursery preparations through heartfelt posts and updates. Despite their youth and the pressures that came with impending parenthood, both Remy and Adeline made a conscious commitment to co-parenting their child. They aimed to create a nurturing environment for their daughter, demonstrating a shared dedication to raising her with love and support. This initial commitment to collaboration and partnership in parenting showcased their willingness to adapt to the new responsibilities that lay ahead, highlighting the hope and determination they had for their family's future. As their daughter continued to grow and develop, the dynamics between Remy and Adeline began to evolve in noticeable ways. The initial bond that had brought them together started to show signs of strain, revealing the complexities of their relationship under the pressures of parenthood. Although they initially maintained a co-parenting arrangement marked by cooperation, it became increasingly evident that their personal connection was weakening. Remy's social media presence began to reflect this shift, her posts increasingly centered around her daughter and her journey of personal growth. The joyful moments they once shared as a couple gradually faded from view, with Adeline appearing less frequently in her content. This change underscored a growing focus on her role as a mother and her commitment to fostering a positive and stable environment for her child. By late 2023, communication between Remy and Adeline had transitioned into a more functional dynamic, revolving primarily around practical matters such as childcare arrangements, visitation schedules, and their daughter's evolving needs. While they still aimed to collaborate on parenting decisions, the warmth and intimacy that characterized their early relationship had diminished, leaving behind a partnership that was more about logistics than emotional connection. This shift illustrated how the challenges of co-parenting could alter relationships, often leading to a redefined understanding of partnership amidst the responsibilities of raising a child. Reflecting on the weeks leading up to her death, friends observed subtle changes in Remy's behavior. Her typically regular social media posts became less frequent, and when she did share content, it was solely about her daughter or her work. Close friends noted she began spending more time at home, curtailing her usual social activities. Text messages revealed that Adeline's communication regarding visitation schedules grew increasingly demanding. Although Remy kept these tensions to herself, her mother later disclosed that Remy had voiced concerns about Adeline's behavior during custody exchanges. She opted not to file any formal complaints, choosing instead to manage the situation discreetly for the sake of their daughter. In her final TikTok post, Remy conveyed cryptic messages about resilience and prioritizing the well-being of her child. Friends who encountered her in early February 2024 observed that she seemed distracted, frequently checking her phone. February 9, 2024, unfolded as a typical day for Remi. Her last social media activity featured her sharing morning moments with her daughter, breakfast videos, and preparing for the day. Security cameras from her apartment complex captured her returning home from errands around 2 p.m., carrying shopping bags and her daughter in her arms. Between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., Remi exchanged several text messages with family members about weekend plans. Her mother later revealed their last conversation included Remi mentioning an anticipated visit to discuss custody arrangements. Around 4:30 p.m., neighbors reported seeing a recognizable car parked in the complex's lot, one that both Remi and Adeline had access to. The last confirmed communication from Remi was a text message sent at 5:12 p.m. to a friend, stating she would call later that evening, a call that never materialized. Security footage showed Adeline's car departing the complex shortly before 6 p.m., but due to camera angles, only the vehicle was visible. At this juncture in Remi's story, I urge you to pause with me for a moment. What you are about to learn next illustrates how swiftly life can alter. If you possess any information about similar circumstances or have observed concerning behavior in relationships you are familiar with, now is the time to speak out. Leave a comment below if you believe you would have recognized these warning signs. Your insights may assist someone else in identifying a perilous situation before it becomes too late. Remember to like this video to help raise awareness about these critical warning signs. For those closely following this case, ensure that you are subscribed and have notifications enabled. Our next video will explore another significant case sharing important similarities with Remi's story, and you will not want to miss it. At 7:43 p.m., a neighbor dialed 911 after hearing what they initially thought were firecrackers coming from Remi's apartment. When no one answered repeated knocks on her door, the police were dispatched to conduct a welfare check. Officers arrived at 8:02 p.m. to find Remi's apartment door unlocked, leading to a devastating discovery. Remi lay motionless in her living room, having suffered multiple gunshot wounds. The scene told a harrowing story of violence. 12 shots had been fired, indicating this was not a spur-of-the-moment act but rather a premeditated assault. Officers heard faint sounds coming from another room, where they found Remi's 1-year-old daughter unharmed in her crib. The baby was swiftly taken into protective custody and later placed with Remi's mother. The contrast was heart-wrenching. One room bore the weight of unimaginable tragedy, while another sheltered an innocent child destined to grow up without her mother. Crime scene investigators worked tirelessly through the night, documenting evidence and piecing together Remi's final moments. No signs of forced entry were found, suggesting Remi had opened her door to someone she recognized. Although her phone was missing from the scene, her purse and other valuables remained untouched, indicating this was not a robbery gone awry. The Baldwin Borough Police Department promptly launched a comprehensive investigation into Remi's death. Within hours of finding her body, detectives established a command center in the management office of the apartment complex, coordinating with multiple units to process the scene and canvass the neighborhood. Officers conducted door-to-door interviews throughout the complex, gathering statements from neighbors who might have witnessed or heard anything unusual. The department assigned their most seasoned homicide detectives to the case, recognizing the gravity of the crime and its effect on the community. The initial 48 hours saw heightened police activity in the area. Officers secured surveillance footage from nearby businesses and traffic cameras, while others traced Remi's last movements through her phone records and social media activity. The department also collaborated with Child Protective Services to ensure the safety and proper care of Remi's daughter, who was placed with her grandmother under police protection. A tip line was established specifically for the case, allowing community members to anonymously provide any information that might aid in solving the crime. The evidence collected from Remi's apartment revealed crucial details about her final moments. Investigators discovered multiple shell casings scattered across the living room floor, suggesting the shooter remained in place while firing. The location of each casing assisted detectives in reconstructing the sequence of events. Remy's apartment displayed no signs of struggle or forced entry. Her keys were found on the kitchen counter, and a half-empty coffee cup rested on the living room table, indicating she had been going about her routine. Her daughter's diaper bag was packed and ready by the door, suggesting she had been preparing for an outing or expecting someone to pick up the baby. The positioning of furniture and personal items provided further insight. Nothing appeared disturbed or ransacked. A bouquet of fresh flowers adorned the dining table, and family photographs lined the walls, undisturbed. The scene painted a picture not of senseless violence but of a targeted attack by someone familiar with both the space and its occupant. Residents of Baldwin Borough responded with an outpouring of support and grief. Within hours of the news breaking, neighbors created a memorial outside Remy's apartment building, leaving flowers, candles, and teddy bears. Local mothers who had connected with Remy through parenting groups organized a candlelight vigil, drawing hundreds of community members. Former classmates from Stowe Roos High School utilized social media to share memories and coordinate support efforts for her family. The school itself became a gathering place for young people processing the loss of their friend, with counselors available to assist students in coping with the tragedy. TikTok creators who had followed Remy began sharing tribute videos, raising awareness about her story and calling for justice. Her followers, many of whom had never met her face-to-face but felt a connection through her authentic portrayal of young motherhood, inundated her previous posts with messages of condolence and disbelief. Detectives quickly honed in on several key pieces of evidence. The shared car between Remy and Adeline became a focal point after residents reported seeing it in the complex's parking lot during critical hours. Phone records revealed a pattern of communication between Remy and a specific number in the hours leading up to her death. Security footage from local businesses provided investigators with a timeline of vehicles entering and exiting the area, capturing clear images of someone matching Adeline's description walking toward Remy's apartment complex shortly before the estimated time of her death. Interviews with family members unveiled recent discussions regarding custody arrangements and planned meetings. Several witnesses came forward with insights about interactions they had observed between Remy and Adeline in the days preceding the crime. Additionally, messages found on Remy's social media accounts hinted at escalating tensions over co-parenting responsibilities. In the days following Remy's death, Adeline Iona's behavior proved pivotal to the investigation. He continued his daily routine, posting on social media and engaging with friends as if nothing had occurred. He even shared a brief tribute to Remy, expressing shock at her death and urging anyone with information to come forward. He participated in group chats discussing the tragedy, displaying an unusual interest in details about the police investigation and frequently questioning what evidence had been uncovered. Adeline kept in touch with Remy's family, offering condolences and support. He visited Remy's mother, who was now caring for their daughter, making appearances that seemed designed to convey his concern for the child. He spoke with investigators voluntarily, providing what appeared to be a detailed account of his movements on the day of the murder and expressing sorrow over the loss of his child's mother. During Remy's funeral service on February 15, Adeline's presence created a disquieting atmosphere that would linger in the memories of those in attendance. He stood among the mourners dressed in black, carrying their daughter in his arms. He signed the guest book, embraced grieving family members, and even assisted in arranging flowers near her casket. Throughout the service, he maintained a solemn demeanor, wiping away tears as friends shared their memories of Remy. He actively participated in prayers and funeral rituals, standing close to Remy's immediate family. Several attendees later recounted how he comforted others who were crying, offering tissues and words of solace. What struck many was his composure during the eulogy when speakers called for justice for Remy. As they spoke about finding her killer, Adeline nodded in agreement. He even approached the microphone to share his own memories, speaking about Remy as a mother and expressing how much their daughter would miss her. Throughout this, he cradled their child, the same child who had been in the apartment when he allegedly took her mother's life. As Adeline played his part as the grieving co-parent, investigators meticulously built their case. Digital evidence began to paint a different picture than the one he presented. His phone location data placed him near Remy's apartment at critical times on February 9. The movements of the shared car, tracked through traffic cameras, matched witness accounts of its presence at the complex. On February 21, just 6 days after standing at Remy's funeral, police moved to arrest Adeline. They found him at his residence, preparing for what appeared to be an ordinary day. The same hands that had wiped away tears at the funeral were now placed in handcuffs. The arrest warrant detailed charges of criminal homicide and endangering the welfare of a child, the latter stemming from his decision to leave his own daughter in the apartment after allegedly shooting her mother. During the arrest, Adeline remained silent, declining to make any statements as officers read him his rights. His calm demeanor sharply contrasted with the emotional displays he had exhibited at Remy's funeral. The location of his arrest held particular significance, less than 3 miles from where Remy's memorial service had occurred just days prior. As officers led him away in handcuffs, neighbors gathered to watch, many recognizing him from news coverage of Remy's death. Among his belongings, police discovered the suit he had worn to the funeral, still hanging in his closet, a chilling reminder of his dual role in this tragedy. The Allegheny County District Attorney's Office filed multiple charges against Adeline Iona, with criminal homicide being the primary charge, reflecting the premeditated nature of Remy's death. Additionally, he faced charges of endangering the welfare of a child, acknowledging the risk posed to his daughter who had been present during the shooting. The criminal complaint detailed the evidence supporting each charge. The homicide charge was backed by forensic evidence, witness statements, and digital data placing him at the scene. The child endangerment charge stemmed from his choice to leave his 1-year-old daughter alone in the apartment after allegedly taking her mother's life. Prosecutors underscored the calculated nature of the crime, the timing of the visit, the number of shots fired, and his subsequent actions at the funeral all factored into their assessment. The charging documents noted his apparent attempts to fabricate an alibi and his ongoing contact with Remy's family after her death, describing these actions as efforts to deflect suspicion while retaining access to information about the investigation. News of Adeline's arrest sent shockwaves through Baldwin Borough. Those who had attended the funeral alongside him struggled to comprehend his betrayal. Social media erupted with posts from individuals who had witnessed his performance at the memorial service, now sharing their horror at having stood beside Remy's alleged killer. Local mothers' groups, where Remy had been active, organized support networks for her family. They initiated fundraisers to assist with legal expenses and to establish a trust fund for her daughter. The community's focus shifted from seeking justice to supporting the child who had lost both parents, one to death and the other to alleged murder. At Stowe Roos High School, where both Remy and Adeline had studied, students organized awareness campaigns addressing domestic violence. The school administration collaborated with local advocacy groups to create resources for students affected by the tragedy. Former classmates who had known both individuals shared their shock, posting old photos and memories of happier times, attempting to understand how events had spiraled so drastically. As of early 2024, Adeline Iona remains in custody at the Allegheny County Jail, held without bail due to the gravity of the charges. The district attorney's office continues to strengthen their case, working closely with investigators to solidify the evidence chain. They have expressed their intention to pursue the maximum penalties available under Pennsylvania law for both the homicide and child endangerment charges. Remy's daughter remains in the care of her maternal grandmother, who has filed for permanent custody. The family court has granted temporary orders prohibiting any contact between the child and Adeline while the criminal case advances. Support services are working closely with the family to ensure the child receives appropriate care and counseling. The case has highlighted gaps in domestic violence prevention programs, sparking discussions about enhancing support systems for young parents in conflict. Local advocacy groups are utilizing Remy's story to advocate for stronger protective measures in custody disputes. Ramiah Griffin's narrative transcends the tragic circumstances of her death. Her impact continues through the thousands of followers who share her content, using her story as a platform to raise awareness about domestic violence. Her TikTok videos, once a glimpse into her life as a young mother, now serve as powerful reminders of her vibrant spirit and unwavering commitment to her daughter. Local advocacy groups have established Ramiah's Promise, an initiative aimed at providing support to young single parents facing custody challenges. The program offers legal advice, safety planning, and emergency assistance resources that might have made a difference in Ramiah's situation. Her story has ignited vital conversations about safeguarding vulnerable parents and children during custody disputes. Ramiah's mother has become the voice her daughter no longer has, channeling her grief into action while raising her granddaughter. She collaborates with local organizations to enhance protections for young parents navigating custody arrangements, and her efforts have already led to proposed changes in how local courts address custody disputes. The Baldwin Borough community has transformed their shock into meaningful change. Local businesses now display resources for domestic violence support, and the police department has improved their response protocols for custody-related conflicts. Stowe Roos High School has implemented a new curriculum focused on relationship safety and co-parenting challenges. Ramiah's friends keep her memory alive through an annual scholarship fund for young single parents pursuing education. They share her story not merely as a cautionary tale but as an inspiration for other young mothers to prioritize their safety and well-being. The community's response demonstrates that even in the face of tragedy, positive change is achievable. As we conclude Ramiah's story, remember that your engagement is crucial in raising awareness about these important issues. Like and share this video to assist other young parents in recognizing potential warning signs in their own circumstances.
Hello everybody. I'm in a situation right now where my man didn't have it all, but guess what? Who's helping him? And his baby mama is white, and all the drama that she put into. Only thing I'm saying is, don't look the white way out. Don't look the white way out.
If anything happens to me. These were the desperate, haunting words of 27-year-old Alicia Simmons, spoken just moments before her life was tragically taken. A vibrant young mother, full of life and love, silenced in the most devastating way. Alicia was a woman many would describe as unstoppable, a loving mother, a caring friend, and someone who brought light to every room she entered. But beneath that light was a shadow she couldn't escape. Behind the smiles and laughter, there were secrets that pointed to a growing storm in her life. The man at the center of that storm? Otis Walker. A name that would become synonymous with tragedy. A man whose history was filled with red flags, a volatile temper, a controlling nature, and a pattern of violence. A man Alicia once loved but had come to fear. It was a warm July evening in 2019 when Alicia made her final plea for help. Her voice trembled as she dialed 911, warning authorities that her life was in danger. She begged them to listen. She wanted to feel safe. But when officers arrived at her home, everything seemed calm, too calm. There were no signs of violence, no visible danger. And so, they left. That decision would prove to be fatal. Hours later, Alicia Simmons was found dead, shot in the chest inside her own home. The person responsible? The very man she had warned about, Otis Walker. But Otis's violence didn't stop with Alicia. In a shocking act of defiance, he turned his rage on law enforcement, ambushing an officer in the hours following the murder. The community was left in shock, grappling with the devastating loss of a mother and the chaos that followed. Alicia's story is not just one of heartbreak, it's a harsh reminder of the cracks in the system. A story of missed opportunities to intervene, of warning signs ignored, and of a woman whose voice should have been enough to save her life. This case forces us to ask difficult questions. Could Alicia Simmons have been saved? How do we protect those who live in fear? And why, despite her desperate pleas, was nothing done to stop the man who would ultimately take her life. In this gripping account, we will explore Alicia's journey, her life, her struggles, and the tragic events leading to her final moments. We'll dive into the history of Otis Walker, the failures that allowed his violence to continue, and the ripple effects of a crime that shook an entire community. Alicia Simmons's story is more than a tragedy. It's a wake-up call, a call to listen, to act, and to never let another voice go unheard. This is her story. This is a tragic silence, the Alicia Simmons case. Before we dive deeper into Alicia's story, I want to take a moment to ask for your help. Stories like these need to be heard. They remind us of the importance of awareness and action. If you find this story compelling or think it can make a difference, please take a second to like this video. It helps this message reach more people who need to hear it. And if you've ever experienced or witnessed the warning signs of domestic violence, I encourage you to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. Your insights could help someone recognize danger in their own life, or even save a life. Most importantly, share this video with your friends, family, and anyone who needs to understand the importance of speaking up and listening when it matters most. Together, we can build a community that supports survivors, spreads awareness, and works to prevent tragedies like this from happening again. Thank you for being here. Now, let's uncover the story of Alicia Simmons and the lessons her life can teach us all. To the world, she was a bright, warm-hearted woman who seemed to carry an unshakable zest for life. She was the kind of person who could light up a room with her laughter, and her online presence reflected that energy. Alicia shared silly videos, heartfelt posts, and glimpses of her life that painted her as someone full of joy and personality. But Alicia wasn't just a fun and lively presence. She was a devoted mother, someone who loved her children fiercely and worked hard to provide for them. At just 27 years old, Alicia balanced the demands of motherhood with her job at Folly Strip Club, a place where she worked tirelessly to make ends meet. She took on the role of provider with pride, determined to ensure her children had everything they needed, even if it meant pushing herself to the brink. Her friends and family remember her as a loving soul. She was so loving. She didn't deserve this, one friend said tearfully. Her kindness wasn't something you could miss. Alicia had a way of making people feel valued, cared for, and understood. She was someone who believed in the best of others, even when it meant putting herself in vulnerable situations. But beneath her cheerful demeanor and glowing personality, Alicia was carrying a burden that she kept hidden from most. Her relationship with Otis Walker was far from the picture of love and stability she deserved. Friends described the relationship as toxic, marked by constant tension, arguments, and abuse. Those closest to Alicia saw the warning signs and tried to intervene. They urged her to leave Otis, to find safety and peace away from his volatile presence. But leaving isn't always easy. She loved him, one friend explained. She used to say, "I don't want to leave him. Everybody leaves him." Alicia's loyalty, her empathy, and perhaps her hope that things could get better kept her tied to Otis, even when it was clear to everyone else that she was in danger. This loyalty wasn't lost on her friends, but it broke their hearts to watch. They witnessed her cycle of leaving and going back. There were moments when Alicia would have Otis arrested for his violent behavior, only to bail him out days later. It was as if she believed she could fix him, or maybe she just didn't want to give up on him when it seemed like the world already had. Alicia's life was one of sharp contrasts. On the surface, she was a woman full of life, juggling her responsibilities with grace, capturing hearts wherever she went. But beneath that surface was a woman caught in the grips of a toxic relationship, someone who faced emotional and physical pain behind closed doors. Her friends and neighbors could see it. They often witnessed the arguments, sometimes spilling into the street for the world to see. But Alicia's public struggles barely scratched the surface of the private turmoil she endured. The bright smile she showed the world masked the pain she carried in silence. As we reflect on her life, we see a woman who wanted to love and be loved, a mother who worked hard to give her children a better future and a person who deserved so much more than the hand she was dealt. Alicia's story is a reminder of how often pain and vulnerability are hidden behind a cheerful facade, and how difficult it can be to break free from a cycle of abuse. What could have been done to save her? Could someone have stepped in sooner? These are the questions we're left to grapple with as we look deeper into the life and struggles of Alicia Simmons. Otis Walker was no stranger to law enforcement. His history was marred by aggression, particularly toward Alicia. There were multiple incidents of domestic violence, some so severe that Alicia had no choice but to involve the authorities. Arrest records reveal a pattern of behavior, anger that boiled over into physical violence, fueled by a toxic combination of jealousy, insecurity, and control. Otis didn't just lash out physically. His manipulation tactics were just as harmful. He had a way of twisting situations to make himself seem like the victim, a classic pattern seen in abusive relationships. Friends and family of Alicia described how Otis would apologize profusely after each violent episode, promising to change, begging for forgiveness. And for someone like Alicia, whose heart was as empathetic as it was forgiving, those promises were often enough to convince her to give him another chance. But those promises never lasted. The cycle would repeat, an argument would escalate, leading to more violence. Despite the many red flags, Alicia found herself trapped in a relationship that was both emotionally and physically destructive. Friends tried to pull her away from Otis, urging her to leave for her own safety, but Otis's grip on her life was unrelenting. So, what drove Otis to act this way? Understanding the psychology behind his actions is complex. His behavior points to deep-seated issues, perhaps feelings of inadequacy, an inability to control his emotions, or even a belief that Alicia would never truly leave him. There's no clear answer, but his actions suggest a dangerous combination of possessiveness and entitlement. After Alicia's death, Otis offered chilling explanations for his actions. He claimed it wasn't intentional, alleging that he acted in self-defense. But how does one reconcile such a claim with his history of violence? Was it truly self-defense, or was it another attempt to shift blame and avoid accountability? The most haunting clue comes in the form of a note Otis wrote, a note that offers a glimpse into his mindset after the crime. In it, he apologized to the police, claiming that Alicia's death wasn't what he intended. The note is both chilling and tragic, a stark reminder of the events that unfolded and the lives that were shattered. What drives someone to such extremes? What allows a person to justify their actions in the face of so much pain and destruction? Otis Walker's story is not one of redemption but of warning. It serves as a grim example of how unchecked anger, manipulation, and violence can spiral out of control, leaving devastation in its wake. Otis was a man who had every opportunity to choose differently, to seek help, to let go, to walk away. But instead, his actions created a chain of events that ended in tragedy. As we explore his background and mindset, we are left with unsettling questions. Could someone like Otis have been stopped before it was too late? Or was this inevitable, a tragedy waiting to happen? While we may never fully understand what went through Otis's mind in those final moments, one thing is certain: the choices he made robbed Alicia Simmons of her future, and the impact of his actions will be felt for generations. This isn't just a story about one man's violent tendencies, it's a cautionary tale about the warning signs we can't afford to ignore. The evening of July 31, 2019, began as an ominous prelude to tragedy. At a modest home on Hodgson Corners Cove in Lithonia, Georgia, the air seemed still and quiet to those outside. But inside, tensions were simmering, building toward an inevitable, devastating eruption. It started with a series of calls to 911. Some were hang-ups, but one stood out. On that call, a woman's voice, trembling with fear, pleaded for help. It was Alicia Simmons. Her words cut through the line, haunting and urgent: "If anything happens to me." In the background, the sound of a heated argument echoed, her voice rising above it: "Are you threatening me? "You're gonna kill me?" DeKalb County Police responded promptly. Officers arrived at the scene, but the house appeared calm, eerily so. The lights were off, the doors were closed, and no visible signs of trouble greeted them. They knocked, but there was no response. Concluding there was no immediate danger, they left, unaware of the storm brewing behind those walls. Behind closed doors, Alicia was locked in a volatile confrontation with Otis Walker, her boyfriend. Their relationship had always been a battlefield of emotions, but that night, the tension was unbearable. Otis's mother, Sharon Walker, was also present, asleep until a young family member woke her, saying the police had been at the door. Sensing something was wrong, Sharon went to check on Otis and Alicia. She found them in his bedroom, the atmosphere thick with unease. Alicia appeared distressed, her fear palpable. Sharon tried to intervene, offering to drive Alicia somewhere safe. She left the room briefly to retrieve her car keys, believing she might be able to defuse the situation. But in the moments that followed, everything spiraled out of control. As Sharon returned to the room, a single, deafening gunshot shattered the silence. Rushing back inside, she found Alicia on the floor, a gunshot wound to her chest. Blood pooled around her as she fought for her life. Sharon turned to her son, who stood there, shaken but defiant. He uttered chilling words, "I don't want to go back to jail." Realizing the danger, Sharon gathered the two minor family members in the house and fled. They sought refuge at a neighbor's home, where they called 911. When officers returned to the scene, they found themselves walking into a deadly ambush. Otis Walker, armed and desperate, had no intention of surrendering. As the officers approached the house, he opened fire, unleashing 19 rounds. One of those rounds struck Officer Derek Nunn, not once, but 4 times. Chaos erupted as officers scrambled for cover. The neighborhood, once quiet and unsuspecting, became a battlefield. The SWAT team was called in, and the search for Alicia inside the house was delayed by the active shooter situation. Despite his injuries, Officer Nunn survived the attack, a testament to both his resilience and the rapid response of his fellow officers. His survival, however, came at a heavy cost, physically and emotionally. Once the scene was secured, officers entered the house. Upstairs, in a bedroom, they found Alicia Simmons. She had succumbed to her injury, her vibrant life cruelly and abruptly taken. A mother, a friend, and a beacon of light to those who knew her, Alicia's death sent shockwaves through the community. After firing at police, Otis fled into the nearby woods, evading capture in the darkness. For 8 long days, he remained at large, the subject of a massive manhunt. He was finally apprehended by the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office Fugitive Task Force on August 8, 2019. At the time of his arrest, Otis was found with a signed note, a haunting attempt to justify his actions. He apologized to Officer Nunn and claimed that Alicia's death was unintentional. But the evidence painted a different picture, a story of control, rage, and violence that ended in unspeakable tragedy. The investigation into the tragic events of August 1, 2019, began immediately after the gunfire fell silent. The scene left behind by Otis Walker was one of heartbreak and chaos. A woman lost her life, and a police officer was fighting to recover from multiple gunshot wounds. But for law enforcement, the case was far from over. Otis Walker had vanished, slipping into the darkness of nearby woods, and a massive manhunt was now underway. In the hours after the shooting, a coordinated effort involving DeKalb County Police, SWAT teams, and other law enforcement agencies launched to track down Walker. Officers combed through the wooded areas surrounding the neighborhood, while helicopters hovered overhead, their searchlights cutting through the night. The community held its breath as Walker, armed and dangerous, remained on the loose. The manhunt intensified over the next several days. Patrols were doubled, and officers canvassed neighborhoods, urging residents to report anything suspicious. The fear in the community was palpable. No one knew where Walker might strike next or how desperate he had become in his attempt to evade capture. Walker's ability to remain undetected for several days was a testament to both his determination and his familiarity with the area. For 4 tense days, he stayed ahead of law enforcement, hiding in wooded areas and avoiding detection. Police described him as desperate and dangerous, warning residents to stay indoors and avoid confrontations. Despite the growing pressure, Walker left behind no obvious trail. But law enforcement didn't waver. Surveillance efforts continued, and investigators worked tirelessly to gather leads. Turning to the public for assistance, a $10,000 reward was issued for information leading Walker's arrest. On August 8, 2019, after a week of relentless searching, a critical tip came in. An anonymous informant contacted Crime Stoppers, reporting that Walker had been spotted near a gas station on Panola Road in Lithonia. The tip immediately mobilized law enforcement. DeKalb County Sheriff's officers, supported by U.S. Marshals and the DeKalb Police Department, moved in with precision. They had been surveilling Walker, carefully monitoring his movements without his knowledge. According to law enforcement, their efforts were so discreet that Walker never saw them coming. The arrest was executed without incident. Walker, realizing there was no escape this time, surrendered peacefully. In his possession, officers discovered a handwritten note, a chilling piece of evidence that offered a glimpse into his mindset. The note, written in Otis Walker's own hand, included an apology to Officer Derek Nunn and to the DeKalb Police Department. He claimed that Alicia Simmons's death had not been intentional, and he tried to justify his actions with vague explanations of self-defense. But the note didn't align with the evidence. Investigators had already pieced together a different narrative, one of escalating violence, control, and a tragic end to a relationship marred by abuse. At a press conference following Walker's capture, DeKalb Assistant Police Chief Tony Catlin addressed the public.
This type of crime is irreprehensible. It will not be tolerated in DeKalb County. The shooting of a victim is wrong. The shooting of a police officer is wrong. It will not be tolerated, and we will waste no resources in bringing you into custody.
Officer Derek Nunn, who had been struck 4 times during the ambush, was now recovering at home. Chief Catlin expressed his gratitude for the officer's survival, asking the community to keep him in their prayers as he healed from his physical and emotional wounds. The DeKalb County Special Victims Unit used this moment to speak out about the broader issue of domestic violence. "No one deserves this kind of pain," said Sergeant Irwin, addressing the media. "The first step to breaking free is recognizing your situation is abusive." Otis Walker's capture brought some measure of relief to the community, but it could not undo the damage he had caused. Alicia Simmons's family and friends were left to mourn the loss of a vibrant young woman whose life was stolen far too soon. Officer Nunn's recovery was a testament to his strength, but it was also a reminder of the dangers law enforcement face in responding to domestic violence situations. The investigation into Alicia's death and the attack on law enforcement highlighted the urgent need for awareness, resources, and intervention in cases of domestic abuse. Law enforcement worked tirelessly to ensure that Walker was held accountable, but the tragedy served as a stark warning of what can happen when warning signs are ignored. The arrest of Otis Walker marked the end of a harrowing chapter, but the story of what happened to Alicia Simmons carries lessons that extend far beyond the events of that summer night. It is a story of heartbreak, resilience, and the critical importance of standing up against domestic violence before it's too late. The courtroom was quiet as the trial of Otis Walker began, but the tension in the air was unmistakable. Family members of Alicia Simmons sat together, their faces etched with pain and determination. For them, this trial wasn't just about hearing the facts, it was about seeking justice for a life taken too soon. Prosecutors began by presenting the 911 calls made on the night of July 31, 2019. The recordings were played for the jury, and Alicia's trembling voice filled the room. "If anything happens to me," she said, her voice filled with fear. In the background, the sound of an argument could be heard. Alicia's words, "Are you threatening me? You're going to kill me," were chilling. These calls painted a vivid picture of the danger she was in and the escalating tension in the moments leading up to her death. The prosecution then shifted to forensic evidence. Experts testified that the trajectory of the bullet that killed Alicia contradicted Otis Walker's claims of self-defense. Instead, it pointed to a deliberate act, a single, fatal shot fired with precision. Then came the evidence surrounding Otis's confrontation with law enforcement. Witnesses testified that Otis had ambushed the officers, firing 19 rounds and hitting Officer Derek Nunn 4 times. Investigators revealed that Otis had admitted to firing at the ground, hoping to provoke the officers into shooting him, a chilling indication of his state of mind and disregard for the lives around him. Otis's legal team argued that the events were unplanned and that he acted in a moment of fear. They claimed that Alicia's death was an accident and that he had no intent to harm the officers. But the evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution dismantled the defense's arguments, piece by piece, showing that Otis's actions were calculated and intentional. After days of testimony and emotional recounts, the jury reached its decision. When the verdict was read, guilty of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and multiple counts of aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer, there was a collective silence in the room. Alicia's family held one another tightly, tears streaming down their faces. For Alicia's loved ones, this was justice. But justice could not bring her back. In the sentencing phase, Judge Yolanda Parker Smith delivered a strong and definitive ruling. Otis Walker was sentenced to life without parole, plus an additional 65 years to be served consecutively. This ensured he would never walk free again. The courtroom was heavy with emotion as members of Alicia's family addressed the court. One family member, her voice trembling with a mix of sorrow and resolve, said, "We lost a daughter, a mother, and a friend. No sentence will ever replace her, but at least we know she can finally rest in peace knowing he will never hurt anyone again." Officer Derek Nunn, who had been shot 4 times during the incident, was also in attendance. Though still recovering from the physical and emotional scars of that night, he expressed relief at the outcome. His words were simple but powerful, "We're all survivors of that night, some of us physically, some of us emotionally. But Alicia's story reminds us why we fight to protect victims of violence." The trial of Otis Walker wasn't just a legal battle, it was a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence. The courtroom had become a place not only for justice but for reflection on how society can better protect those in danger. The verdict and sentencing closed one chapter, but the legacy of Alicia Simmons lives on. Her story is now a symbol of why it's crucial to listen to the voices of those in fear, to intervene before it's too late, and to ensure that abusers are held accountable. The courtroom drama surrounding Otis Walker's trial captured the attention of many, but behind the headlines was a heartbreaking reality: a mother taken from her children, a family forever changed, and a community left to grapple with the aftermath. As the trial concluded, one thing was clear: the fight to end domestic violence is far from over. The aftermath of Alicia Simmons' tragic death was felt far beyond the walls of her home. It was a wound that cut deep into her family, her friends, and an entire community that had witnessed a tragedy that might have been prevented. For Alicia's children, the loss was immeasurable. Their mother, the woman who had nurtured them, loved them, and fought to give them a better life, was gone. In an instant, they became orphans to violence, left to grow up with only memories of her warmth and laughter. The people closest to Alicia stepped in, trying to provide comfort, but no amount of love could ever fill the void she left behind. Her family struggled to come to terms with what had happened. They had seen Alicia's pain, heard her fears, and tried to help. But now, they were left with the painful reality that they could not save her. Some were consumed by guilt, wondering if there was anything more they could have done. Others channeled their grief into action, determined to ensure that no other family would have to endure the same loss. For Officer Derek Nunn, the trauma lingered in more ways than one. The physical wounds from the 4 bullets that tore through his body eventually healed, but the emotional scars remained. He had nearly lost his life responding to a call for help. The attack had changed him, not just as a police officer, but as a person. He had faced death that night, and now, every call, every domestic dispute, felt different. More urgent. More personal. The community of Lithonia was shaken. Neighbors who had once heard Alicia's laughter now spoke in hushed tones, questioning how such a horrific event had unfolded in their own backyard. Some were outraged, demanding answers about why Alicia's calls for help hadn't been taken more seriously. Others mourned quietly, lighting candles and leaving flowers in her memory. Alicia's case became a wake-up call, a stark reminder of how dangerous domestic violence can be and how often the warning signs are overlooked. Conversations about victims like Alicia grew louder, with advocacy groups pushing for stronger protections for those in abusive relationships. Law enforcement, too, faced scrutiny. The question echoed in the minds of many: could this tragedy have been prevented? Alicia had reached out for help. She had called 911, she had voiced her fear, and yet, she was still left alone with the man who would ultimately take her life. In the wake of her death, discussions about police response to domestic violence cases gained traction. Some departments re-evaluated their procedures, emphasizing the need to take all threats seriously, no matter how quiet or unseen the danger might seem. Her story became part of a larger movement, one that called for more education, more resources, and more awareness surrounding domestic violence. Shelters and support organizations used Alicia's case to stress the importance of early intervention, teaching victims and their loved ones the critical steps to escape a dangerous situation before it was too late. For those closest to Alicia, justice had been served, but their pain remained. The sentencing of Otis Walker ensured he would never hurt another person again, but it could not bring her back. All they could do now was honor her memory, by speaking her name, by sharing her story, and by working to protect others from the same fate. Alicia Simmons was more than a victim. She was a mother, a daughter, a friend, and a woman who deserved a future. And while her life was stolen in a moment of violence, her story continues to echo as a reminder, one that urges us all to listen, to act, and to never ignore the cries for help. Alicia Simmons' story is not just a tragic reminder of what happens when domestic violence goes unnoticed, it's a call to action. The dangers of staying in abusive relationships are real. Alicia, like many, tried to leave, but the fear, the manipulation, and the control often make it feel impossible to break free. She didn't deserve to die. No one does. This case highlights the critical role that friends, family, and the community play in helping those caught in cycles of abuse. We all have a part to play. Whether it's listening when someone reaches out or stepping in when something doesn't seem right, we can all help prevent the next tragedy. But it's not just about being there for others, it's also about recognizing the warning signs. Abusers don't always show their true selves at first. A person might seem charming, loving, or even remorseful after an argument. But behind that, there could be controlling behaviors, threats, or even physical violence. We must learn to spot the red flags early. If you or someone you know is in an abusive situation, remember that help is out there. National hotlines, local shelters, and support groups are ready to assist those in need. The National Domestic Violence Hotline offers confidential support at any time. Call 1-800-799-7233 or visit their website. Check the description for more resources. As a community, we must educate ourselves on the signs of abuse. Recognize the patterns, listen to the warnings, and take action. By doing so, we can help create a safer, more supportive world for everyone, where stories like Alicia's become the exception, not the rule. Alicia Simmons' story is a heartbreaking reminder of how love, or what feels like love, can sometimes trap us in cycles of pain and fear. But as we reflect on her life and the tragedy that took it, let's also remember the strength and resilience she showed in trying to escape her abuser, and the lives she touched with her warmth. Her memory compels us to stand against domestic violence, to listen to those who cry for help, and to ensure that their voices are never ignored again. As we close today's story, I ask you to share this video. Spread the word, spread awareness. Let's work together to make sure this tragedy never repeats. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more stories that shine a light on the dark truths, and provide the resources and education we all need to make a difference. Thank you for watching, and remember, no one deserves to live in fear. Let's continue to make our communities a place of safety and support.
Local church is devastated after one of their workers is killed, and police say the suspect is her husband.
The church told us he also worked there.
There's no way to even wrap one's mind around that, to even see that that would be in the realm of the possible. It doesn't seem real. It seems like a very bad nightmare. There was literally no sign that would indicate that there was any trouble.
You can get it. The White Lewis, I'm talking to you. I swear to God, nigga, I'll have my nephew bring me to your motherfucking house and I'll beat because you know you don't want these problems.
On January 8, 2018, Tanisha Harris, a devoted associate pastor at Repairers, Kansas City, left her job at an Overland Park bank for lunch and never returned. Hours later, her husband, Robert Lee Harris, a church elder, called 911 to report her missing. But when police arrived at their apartment, they found red stains on the carpet, shattered glass, and Robert alone, calm, collected, and with a story that didn't quite make sense. As investigators began to piece together the timeline, they uncovered a series of suspicious purchases: a trash can, plastic bags, carpet cleaner, and a filleting knife, all bought by Robert that very morning. What was he planning? And why did he suddenly confess to knowing something about his wife's disappearance? The answers would lead to a chilling discovery that would shock their church community and leave everyone asking, how could a man of faith be capable of such a crime? This is the haunting story of Tanisha Harris's disappearance, a case that unraveled a web of secrets, lies, and a betrayal no one saw coming. Welcome to True Crime Tales HQ, where we uncover the truth behind the most gripping true crime stories. Today we're diving into the tragic case of Tanisha Harris, a story that shocked a tight-knit church community and left everyone questioning how such a horrific crime could happen behind closed doors. As we unravel the details of this case, I want to hear from you. What do you think led to this unthinkable act? Was it a moment of rage, a calculated plan, or something deeper hidden beneath the surface? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be reading every single one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. Let's get started. In the heart of Kansas City, Missouri, there was a church that stood as a beacon of hope and faith, Repairers, Kansas City. Among its leaders were two individuals who seemed to embody the very essence of devotion and love: Tanisha Harris and Robert Lee Harris. To their congregation, they were more than just leaders. They were symbols of faith, unity, and unwavering commitment. But who were they really? Let's take a closer look at the lives of these two individuals, whose story would soon take a tragic and unimaginable turn. Tanisha Harris, a vibrant 38-year-old associate pastor, was the kind of person who left a lasting impression on everyone she met. She had a radiant smile, a warm presence, and a gift for connecting with people. Her sermons were filled with passion and simplicity, often drawing from her own life experiences to inspire others. Outside of the church, Tanisha worked at a bank in Overland Park, where she was known for her diligence and kindness. She was a mother to a young daughter, Alex, from a previous relationship, and those who knew her described her as a devoted parent who balanced her faith, career, and family with grace. Robert Lee Harris, at 30 years old, was an elder at Repairers, Kansas City. He was a man who carried himself with a quiet confidence, someone who seemed to have his life together. A former U.S. Army veteran, Robert had served in South Korea and later relocated to Kansas City after being honorably discharged. He found his calling at Repairers KC, where he quickly rose to become a respected leader. Robert was known for his deep voice, his ability to preach with conviction, and his dedication to the church's mission. Like Tanisha, he was also a parent with a daughter from a previous marriage. Their love story began within the walls of the very church they served. They met, bonded over their shared faith, and soon became inseparable. In July 2016, surrounded by family, friends, and their church community, they exchanged vows in a beautiful ceremony officiated by their pastor, Carlton Funderburk. To everyone who knew them, they were the picture of a perfect couple. Loving, devoted, and deeply committed to their faith in each other. Their social media pages were filled with photos of them smiling, preaching, and spending time with their blended family. They were pillars of their church, actively involved in its ministries, and seen as role models for others in the community. But behind the public image of this seemingly idyllic marriage, there were cracks that few could see. While Tanisha was known for her openness and warmth, Robert was more reserved, often keeping his emotions close to his chest. Those who worked closely with him at the church admired his dedication, but some noticed a subtle tension in his demeanor, a side of him that rarely surfaced in public. And then there was the affair, a secret relationship that would later come to light, shattering the illusion of their perfect marriage. As we peel back the layers of their lives, we begin to see a story far more complex, and far more tragic, than anyone could have imagined. This is the story of Tanisha Harris, a woman whose light was extinguished far too soon, and the man who stood beside her, now accused of her murder. A story that forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes, the people we trust the most are the ones capable of the greatest betrayal. January 8, 2018, began like any other day for Tanisha Harris. She woke up early, prepared for work, and kissed her husband, Robert, goodbye before heading to her job at the bank in Overland Park. By all accounts, it was a normal morning. But by the end of the day, Tanisha would vanish without a trace, and the events that unfolded would leave a community in shock and a husband under suspicion. At 11:44 a.m., Tanisha clocked out for her lunch break. She was seen leaving the bank, her cheerful demeanor unchanged. But she never returned. Hours passed and her co-workers grew concerned. Calls to her phone went unanswered. By the time her shift ended, Tanisha was officially missing. Meanwhile, back at the couple's apartment in the 8000 block of Perry Street, something was unfolding that would soon draw the attention of law enforcement. Around 4 p.m., Overland Park police received a call about a domestic disturbance at the Harris residence. When officers arrived, they found Robert alone in the apartment. He was calm, almost eerily so, as he explained that everything was fine. But the scene told a different story. Red stains were smeared across the carpet, and shards of broken glass were scattered near the doorway. When asked about Tanisha, Robert claimed she wasn't home. The officers left, but their suspicions lingered. Hours later, at 8:30 p.m., Robert called 911 again, this time to report his wife missing. He told police he had last seen her that morning and had no idea where she could be. But his story didn't add up. Why hadn't he reported her missing earlier? And what had happened in the apartment that afternoon? As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a series of alarming details. Earlier that day, Robert had made multiple trips to a nearby Walmart. Surveillance footage showed him purchasing a large trash can, plastic bags, carpet cleaner, and a filleting knife. These purchases, made just hours before Tanisha disappeared, raised immediate red flags. What was Robert planning? And why did he need these items on the very day his wife vanished? But the most damning revelation came during questioning. Robert, under increasing pressure, admitted that he had played a role in Tanisha's disappearance. He claimed he didn't know where she was, but his calm demeanor and the evidence stacking up against him told a different story. Investigators now had a suspect, but they still needed to find Tanisha. The search led them to Raymore, Missouri, nearly 20 miles away. In the early hours of January 10, 2018, Tanisha's body was discovered in a remote field, wrapped in a black garbage bag. The woman who had once brought so much light to her community was gone, and the man who had vowed to love and cherish her was now the prime suspect in her murder. What happened inside that apartment on January 8th? What drove Robert to commit such a horrific act? And how did a man of faith become the center of a murder investigation? The answers to these questions would unravel a story of betrayal, secrets, and a crime that would leave a community forever scarred. As the investigation into Tanisha Harris's disappearance intensified, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, and each one pointed directly at Robert Lee Harris. What started as a missing persons case quickly turned into a full-blown murder investigation, uncovering secrets that would shock even the most seasoned detectives. It began with Robert's confession. Under the weight of mounting evidence and relentless questioning, he admitted to having a role in Tanisha's disappearance. But he stopped short of providing all the answers. Where was Tanisha? What had happened inside their apartment? Investigators needed more, and they would soon find it, in a field in Raymore, Missouri. In the early hours of January 10, 2018, Tanisha's body was discovered, wrapped in a black garbage bag. The scene was haunting, a stark contrast to the vibrant woman she had been. An autopsy revealed the grim truth. Tanisha had died by strangulation. There were also signs of head trauma, though not fatal, suggesting a violent struggle. The woman who had once stood at the pulpit, inspiring her congregation, had been silenced in the most brutal way. But the evidence didn't stop there. Investigators traced Robert's movements on the day of Tanisha's disappearance, uncovering a chilling trail. Surveillance footage from Walmart showed him purchasing a trash can, plastic bags, carpet cleaner, and a filleting knife, items that took on a sinister meaning in light of the crime. Receipts and timestamps placed him at the store multiple times that morning, just hours before Tanisha vanished. What was he planning? And why did he need these items on the very day his wife went missing? As the case moved to trial, more shocking details emerged. One of the most damning revelations came from a man named Stephen Jr., who testified about his affair with Robert.
You know he don't want to catch these hands, pussy. You talking all tough under somebody's status, bitch, nigga, pull up. Nigga, I don't need you to pull up. I'm gonna have my nephew bring me to your house. I'm gonna have my nephew... What's up, nigga?
Then he justified why he had decided to testify against Robert in court.
I thought I was doing the right thing because I was inappropriate with Robert. I did have, so I thought I want justice for Tanisha just as well because nobody can understand the way I feel. Because I'm thinking, before any report came out, nigga, I'm thinking this is my fault. So I done lost my house, I done lost my job, I done lost my car. Bitch, don't know that. So let me make this very clear. Any bitch nigga that pull up on me, nigga, ain't no hands catching. I ain't fighting no nigga. I will swear to God, nigga.
And then he claimed that he'd done a favor to Tanisha by testifying against Robert, and people were still blaming him instead of applauding his bravery, not to mention that he was also putting his own reputation at stake by spilling the beans.
Y'all mad? I did her a motherfucking favor. I testified, and being honest, so motherfucker could get justice, and you bitches gon' come for me. What's up, nigga? No, what's up? I'm feeling bad because I feel like this woman need justice for her death, and you motherfucker gon' come for me, and I didn't motherfucking testify.
Steven,
I swear to God, bitch, all can die tonight. Oh my motherfucking mama, that's real motherfucking talk. Nobody understand what the I'm going through. This woman should not have lost her motherfucking life, and you bitches gon' come for me, and I'm the one who was honest, who came for it, and testify.
And then he started to spill the beans about the indecent things that went on inside the church. He claimed that whoever testified in favor of Robert that day was actually romantically or physically involved with him and hadn't dared to testify against him. But Stephen cared about Tanisha getting justice, so he admitted his involvement with Robert fearlessly.
I'm so sick of motherfuckers hiding and buying shit. I was honest. All these other niggas you taking pictures with, them the same niggas that was also taking his big black dick. And ain't none of them niggas came forward. Ain't none of them niggas being honest. Bitch, I was honest because I want justice for this woman. Now I don't have no motherfucking sympathy, bitch. It's war. What's up? I'm ready. But take me out. Bitch, I've lost everything because I felt some kind of way about this woman being murdered. Bitch, lost everything thing because I felt some kind of way about this woman being taken. Everybody knew what Robert was doing because so much shit had came out before she married him. She already knew what this nigga was doing. I just want somebody to pull up on me. That's all I want. He didn't kill her because of his motherfucking quality. He killed her for money. So why you listen to somebody who done posted one motherfucking status? I want justice for this woman just like the next, just like her mama do, just like her daddy do, just like her sisters do. And I testify. I'm the only one that came out and was honest about what was going on. And then people are coming for me when I'm trying to get justice too. They got me all twisted in the game. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm done.
The two had been in a romantic relationship for nearly a year, a secret that had been hidden from Tanisha and the church community. Stephen's testimony painted a picture of a man living a double life, a church elder by day, entangled in a web of deception by night. But perhaps the most heartbreaking detail was this: Stephen had considered Tanisha a friend. He never imagined his relationship with Robert would end in such tragedy. Neighbors also came forward, recounting what they had heard and seen on the day of the crime. One neighbor who lived directly below the Harris apartment reported hearing loud noises, thuds and crashes, between 2 and 3:30 p.m. Another described calling the apartment management to report a domestic disturbance. When police arrived, they found Robert alone, the apartment in disarray and red stains on the carpet. But it wasn't until hours later, when Robert called to report Tanisha missing, that the full scope of the investigation began to unfold. Just when investigators thought they had the full story, another bombshell dropped. Robert's calm demeanor during questioning, his suspicious purchases, and his affair all pointed to a calculated act. But what drove him to kill the woman he had vowed to love and protect? Was it jealousy, rage, or something far more sinister? The answers would come during the trial, as the prosecution pieced together a case that would leave no doubt about Robert's guilt. This was no longer just a story about a missing pastor. It was a story of betrayal, deception, and a crime that shattered the lives of everyone involved. And as the trial unfolded, the truth would finally come to light, revealing a darkness no one had seen coming. The trial of Robert Lee Harris was not just a legal proceeding, it was a reckoning. A chance for justice to be served for Tanisha Harris, the beloved associate pastor whose life was tragically cut short. As the courtroom filled with family, friends, and members of the Repairers Kansas City congregation, the weight of the case hung heavy in the air. This was more than a trial, it was a search for answers, for closure, and for the truth. The prosecution built their case with precision, presenting a mountain of evidence that left little room for doubt. They highlighted Robert's suspicious behavior on the day of Tanisha's disappearance, his multiple trips to Walmart, the purchases of a trash can, plastic bags, carpet cleaner, and a filleting knife. They pointed to the red stains on the carpet, the broken glass, and the eerie calm with which Robert had reported his wife missing. And then there was the affair, the secret relationship with Stephen Jr., which shattered the image of Robert as a devoted husband and church elder. Stephen Jr.'s testimony was one of the trial's most emotional moments. He took the stand, his voice trembling as he recounted his relationship with Robert. He spoke of the guilt he felt, knowing that his affair had played a role in the unraveling of Tanisha's marriage. But he also made it clear, he wanted justice for Tanisha, the woman he had considered a friend. His words painted a picture of a man who had lived a double life, a man who had betrayed not only his wife but also the trust of his church community. The defense, on the other hand, struggled to counter the prosecution's case. They argued that there was no direct evidence linking Robert to Tanisha's murder, no eyewitnesses, no murder weapon. They painted Robert as a man of faith, a devoted husband who had been wrongfully accused. But their arguments fell flat in the face of the overwhelming evidence. The jury saw through the defense's claims, and after hours of deliberation, they reached a verdict. On August 19, 2019, Robert Lee Harris was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted in a mix of emotions, relief, sorrow, and anger. Tanisha's family, who had sat through every agonizing moment of the trial, finally felt a sense of justice. But for them it was bittersweet. No verdict could bring Tanisha back. The sentencing phase was equally emotional. On November 3, 2019, Robert stood before the judge, his fate sealed. He was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 50 years. As the judge delivered the sentence, Tanisha's family wept quietly in the gallery. For them, it was a small measure of closure, but the pain of losing Tanisha would never fully go away. Outside the courtroom, Pastor Carlton Funderburk, who had married the couple just 3 years earlier, spoke to reporters.
This loss is profound and utterly indescribable. There's no way to even wrap one's mind around that, to even see that that would be in the realm of the possible. It doesn't seem real. It seems like a very bad nightmare. To hear the news of this and there to be any allegation that he's involved makes the blow even all the more deep.
His voice was heavy with grief as he reflected on the tragedy. They were a loving couple, he said. They were very involved, very engaged in the church. This is a loss that will be felt for a long time. The trial may have ended, but the questions lingered. How could a man of faith, a church elder, commit such a horrific act? What drove Robert to betray the woman he had vowed to love and protect? And what does this say about the masks we wear, the secrets we keep, and the darkness that can lurk behind even the most polished facades? This is the story of Tanisha Harris, a story of love, betrayal, and a tragedy that shook a community to its core. And as we reflect on her life and the trial that followed, we are reminded of the importance of seeking the truth, no matter how painful it may be. The conviction of Robert Lee Harris brought a measure of justice, but for the congregation of Repairers Kansas City, the scars of this tragedy ran deep. The church, once a place of hope and unity, now grappled with the unimaginable. One of their own, a trusted elder, had committed an unthinkable act. The shockwaves of Tanisha's murder reverberated through the community, leaving behind a trail of grief, anger, and unanswered questions. Pastor Carlton Funderburk, who had officiated Tanisha and Robert's wedding just 3 years earlier, found himself at the center of the storm. In the aftermath of the trial, Funderburk made headlines for his controversial statements. In a now viral video, he lashed out at his congregation, calling them broke, busted, and disgusted for not honoring him with expensive gifts like a Movado watch. His words sparked outrage, with many accusing him of being out of touch with the pain his congregation was feeling. Funderburk later apologized, but the damage was done. The church, already reeling from the tragedy, now faced internal turmoil. Yet, amid the pain, there were glimmers of hope. The community rallied around Tanisha's 9-year-old daughter, Alex, who had lost her mother in the most devastating way. A fundraiser, the Tanisha Love Memorial Fund, was established to support Alex's future. Donations poured in from friends, family, and even strangers who had been moved by Tanisha's story. It was a testament to the love and compassion that Tanisha had always shown others, a legacy that would live on through her daughter. As the dust settled, the case of Tanisha Harris forced the community and the world to confront difficult truths. Domestic violence, often hidden behind closed doors, can affect anyone regardless of their faith, status, or public image. The dangers of idealizing public figures became painfully clear. Robert Lee Harris, a man who had been seen as a pillar of the church, was capable of a heinous crime. It was a stark reminder that no one is immune to the darkness that can reside within. Tanisha's story also highlighted the importance of paying attention to the signs, those subtle cracks in a seemingly perfect facade. The loud noises neighbors heard that day, the red stains on the carpet, the suspicious Walmart purchases, all were clues that something was terribly wrong. Yet, in the moment, they were overlooked or dismissed. How many times do we ignore the warning signs in our own lives, choosing to believe the image rather than the reality? This is the legacy of Tanisha Harris. A life cut short, a community forever changed, and a story that challenges us to look beyond the surface. To seek the truth no matter how painful. And to remember that even in the darkest moments, there is always hope. Hope for justice, for healing, and for a future where no one has to suffer in silence. Tanisha Harris's life was tragically cut short, but her story serves as a powerful reminder to look beyond the surface and seek the truth. It challenges us to pay attention to the signs, to speak up when something feels wrong, and to remember that even those we trust the most can hide the darkest secrets. Her legacy lives on through her daughter, Alex, and through the lessons we can all take from this heartbreaking case. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more true crime stories that delve into the complexities of human nature and the pursuit of justice. We want to hear from you. What do you think drove Robert to commit such a horrific crime? Was it jealousy, rage, or something deeper? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And stay tuned for our next video, where we uncover another shocking true crime story that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Until then, remember, the truth is often hidden, but it's always worth seeking. Thank you for watching.